In the world of reality TV, everything is scripted. The fines are planted. The prices are negotiated beforehand. But one thing on American Pickers was supposed to be real: the brotherhood. For 10 years, Mike Wolfe and Frank Fritz were the faces of Americana, the high-energy dealmaker and the bearded, relatable everyman. They weren't just co-hosts. They were friends since the 8th grade. But in 2021, that brotherhood didn't just end. It imploded. Public accusations, silent treatments, a firing that shocked millions, and eventually, a tragedy that made all the fighting seem pointless. Why did Mike Wolfe really fire his childhood friend? Was it Frank's addiction? His health? Or was it something much colder, corporate move to erase the one man who stood in the way of the Mike Wolfe empire? Today, we are digging up the truth they tried to bury. This is the tragic final chapter of Frank Fritz. To understand the bitterness of the end, we have to look at the beginning. Before the History Channel fame, Mike and Frank were just two guys in LeClaire, Iowa, with a shared obsession: rust. They were a perfect balance. Mike was the dreamer, the guy who saw a rusted bike frame and saw art. Frank was the realist, the guy who saw a profit margin. This dynamic is exactly what the History Channel bought in 2010. When the show premiered, it was an instant cultural phenomenon. It wasn't just about antiques. It was about the freedom of the open road. And crucially, it was about their friendship. But if you looked closely, even in the early seasons, the cracks were forming. As the show grew, so did the egos. But they didn't grow evenly. Mike Wolfe was building a brand. He opened a second location in Nashville. He started a clothing line. He was becoming a celebrity. Frank. He just wanted to pick. He wasn't interested in the empire. He was the everyman. And in the eyes of the producers, the everyman is replaceable. Rumors started circulating as early as 2018. Insiders claimed the producers felt Frank was difficult. He was struggling with back pain. He was struggling with Crohn's disease. And on a grueling production schedule, sick often translates to liability. The first major blow came in 2017. Frank was arrested for an OWI operating while intoxicated. It was a public embarrassment for a family-friendly show on the History Channel. Frank later admitted he had been self-medicating for anxiety and back pain. But instead of the show pausing to help him, the cameras kept rolling. Frank returned to the screen, but he looked different. He lost a massive amount of weight. Fans were worried. Was it the Crohn's disease? Was it the addiction? The comments section of every video asked, "Is Frank okay?" Meanwhile, the Mike Wolfe machine was running full steam. He was doing solo interviews. He was the face of the franchise. And the tension on set became palpable. Watch the body language in the later seasons. The banter felt forced. The laughs didn't quite reach their eyes. They were co-workers now, not friends. Then came March 2020. The world shut down for the pandemic. And for Frank Fritz, it was the beginning of the end. He went in for extensive back surgery, a procedure that would require months of recovery. He stepped away to heal. He thought his seat in the van would be waiting for him. He was wrong. This is where the story turns from business to betrayal. Frank is at home, recovering from a painful surgery. He is vulnerable. He is waiting for his best friend of 40 years to check in. The phone never rang. In July 2021, Frank broke his silence in an explosive interview with The Sun. He didn't mince words. He told the reporter, "I haven't talked to Mike in 2 years. He knew my back was messed up, but he didn't call me up and ask how I was doing. That's just how it is." Frank went further. He accused the show of tilting the camera towards Mike. He said, "The show is tilted towards him. 1000%. I can't even bend that far down to show you how much." Shortly after that interview, the History Channel made it official. Frank Fritz was out. Mike released a statement. It was polished. It was PR. He said, "I will miss Frank, just like all of you, and I pray for the very best and all good things for him on his next journey." Hated it. They called it insincere. They called it crocodile tears. And Frank wasn't buying it either. Frank's response to Mike's statement. He called it absolute bull. He claimed Mike had been trying to replace him with his brother, Robbie Wolfe, for years. The feud was public. The lines were drawn. Fans were choosing sides. But the universe has a way of making petty arguments seem small. Just 1 year after being fired, Frank was found in his home, unresponsive. He had suffered a massive stroke. The man who had spent his life preserving history was now fighting for his future. He was placed under his ability to communicate was severely damaged. It was only then, when it was almost too late, that the ice began to thaw. Mike Wolfe reportedly reached out. He asked fans to pray for Frank. On Memorial Day 2023, they reportedly reunited in person. We don't know what was said in that room. We can only hope that for a moment, the lawyers, the contracts, and the ratings disappeared. And it was just a kids from Iowa, again. Frank Fritz passed away in 2024. The show continues with Mike and his brother Robbie. But look at the comments on any recent episode. The fans know. The magic is gone. Frank was the heart of the show because he was one of us. He wasn't a brand, he was a picker. And his story is a brutal reminder that in the entertainment industry, you can be replaced in a heartbeat, no matter how much history you share. So I have to ask you, do you think Mike Wolfe sacrificed his friend for fame? Or was Frank's health simply too big of a risk for the network? Let me know your verdict in the comments below. Rest in peace, Frank. You will be missed. Thanks for watching Retro Rewind.